Welcome back to Out of Home Insider, where digital out of home meets ad tech, and you learn all about the trends that matter most to your business. Last week, Eric Tilbury, the self-described ad tech hipster and senior director of ad ops at Inuvo, he leads a team of programmatic traders. We talked a lot about the challenges he's seeing within programmatic, his thesis on digital out of home, what's working for the channel and what's holding it back. So definitely go back and listen to that episode in case you missed it. Looking ahead to next week, we'll be releasing our programmatic prospectus. A few weeks ago, we released the Programmatic Primer, a state-of-the-state report on digital out-of-home spending and growth trends. So if you haven't watched that one yet, it comes complete with a slide deck, so it's really like a mini webinar. Get your hands on the primer. It'll be linked at the top of the show notes. And be sure to subscribe so you get part 2 next week, the Programmatic Prospectus. And there's just 1 week left until Placer AI Discover on December 10th at Chelsea Pier. If you haven't gotten your ticket yet and want to save 70% on registration, go to theoohinsider.com. At the top will be a big announcement bar and call out for the registration code OOHinsider70. So go to theoohinsider.com, register today for the Placer AI event on December 10th. It's all about the future of location analytics. So if that's something you're thinking about, which if you're listening to this, it probably is, then go to theoohinsider.com, find the registration link and the discount code right at the top and save 70% today. All right, now for today's guest. Ed Silhan is the CRO of Locala, an omnichannel DSP that started off mobile first. And today we'll be talking about how Locala works with advertisers, some historical context about the death of print and the rise of digital. And we'll talk about how Locala as a platform makes decisions about digital out-of-home inventory for its advertisers. Ed, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Tim. Good to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. And I know you're warmed up. You were on a panel this morning, so we're getting the best of the best. Let's start with a big question here. What is the problem that Locala solves, and who do you solve it for?
At Locala, we understand audiences on a hyper-local level. We use AI with location data, purchase data, survey-based intent data, and census data. So we can understand down to a specific point of interest, a single store, who the best customers are, who are the audiences that are frequenting that location, who is switching back and forth, but really, who is the best audience? And then we could look at that on a local level and then activate nationally or even globally. We're a global company in over 40 different markets across the world. And we activate across all digital screens, mobile, desktop, digital out of home, and connected TV. And then on the back end, we provide deep insights and analytics to the campaign, as well as foot traffic attribution.
So I heard foot traffic. I heard store level insights. It sounds like brick and mortar is a sweet spot for Locala. Is that a fair assumption?
We started as a mobile DSP. Brick and mortar, retail, auto, QSR were always some of our biggest categories. But because of those deep insights, we have a very robust planning tool. We are also working with a ton of CPG, brand awareness types of campaigns. So it's not just drive to store, but it is something that we do very well.
Awesome. Let's maybe go back in time so that we can get to current day. You were working in print as digital started to explode. So you've gone through these evolutions. Can you take us back in time to maybe what that was like as digital started to make a rise as you're working in print? What was that like?
Sure. So now I actually started my career at FCB New York, started as a media planner, realized very quickly that I wanted to go into sales. Started at the New York Post, then I went to Reader's Digest, worked at Meredith. But as digital was growing, we had people in print who didn't think that print will ever die. Magazines are always going to exist. People want to touch it, feel it. It won't go digital. And I realized relatively quickly that I needed to make a move into digital, and I did. And then a number of years later, I had publishers at major magazines that were sitting across from me looking for sales jobs.
Interesting. Realizing that evolution had taken place with or without them. Hey, we're going online. It's the content that we're obsessed with consuming. I think that there is still an element, perhaps even a premium now today on tangibility, print probably still having its rightful place with really valuable audiences and being even more valuable today than maybe it had been in the past, but not as scaled of a tactic. Thinking about that kind of evolution, what were the hardest parts? What were the hardest parts that you saw print go through when becoming digital?
Well, I'll say when print was at its finest, relatively easy sell. You built
Okay.
relationships with clients. There were multiple publications that were very similar based on circulation and audits, and we did very well. What we didn't have is who were those audiences.
Hmm.
So when print started to move to digital, you had to optimize. You were held accountable to who those audiences were. And plans could be canceled mid-flight of a campaign. When you're in print, once it's printed, that's it.
That's it.
That month can't be month or bi-monthly or quarterly, whatever it is, can't be canceled midway through. So with print moving into digital, really held the publishers accountable. And I believe it drives more ROI for the brands.
The big A word, accountability, as really a driving force behind brands wanting to trade in environments where we can understand how much of my dollar is actually going towards working media, how much of it is generating an outcome that is favorable to the business. That makes a ton of sense. And it really seems like one of the challenges that out of home is going through as out of home becomes digital and as digital out of home becomes programmatic is kind of letting go of some of that control. For so long, it has been contracts and 4 weeks and all of these kind of weird, quirky nuances that made it hard to buy, which were maybe a defensive tactic for a while. But brands want the stuff, and we need to find ways to be more flexible.
Correct. Locala has recently entered into the out-of-home space. It is my first experience within this space, and I have to say it's a very tight-knit community. People that have been in out-of-home for a very, very long time, and a lot of what print went through moving to digital, I'm seeing also within this category. I mean, out-of-home works. It's the oldest form of advertising. You reach mass people. But now with digital out of home, you can look at your out of home plans just like any other part of your digital campaigns. Be optimized the same way. It could reach specific audiences, not just mass in one certain area.
As you, as a DSP, went through that evolution from mobile first to now being omni-channel, what were the requests or what were the problems that brands were having that encouraged your evolution, would you say?
Well, as a mobile DSP, location was our primary data point. Many of the brands we worked with were also looking for attribution in terms of, say, foot traffic across some of their other digital media. And what they really look to do is have reporting that encompasses all of it. Previously, a brand would work with us for its mobile campaigns, then work with another company for its desktop campaigns, another company for CTV campaigns, and CTV has absolutely exploded, and then work with another specific publisher for out of home. We've become one-stop shop. We buy programmatically, and all of those forms of media can be bought programmatically and optimized with the same methodologies. So it was just a natural evolution.
What does programmatic mean to Locala? We've had a lot of conversations over the last few weeks laying in some of the definitions. I think one of the challenges for digital out of home as an industry is programmatic has become this blanket word for a way to trade, a bucket of technology, kind of this black box of things we don't fully understand yet. What does programmatic mean to Locala?
So programmatic encompasses so many different things. You have different data points. You have inventory with real-time bidding, publishers that are selling their inventory and in an open marketplace where anyone can try to acquire those impressions. So depending on what the brand's objective is, who their audience is, we can look at the inventory and rank what is worth it, what should we pay to reach this audience at this time in this location, etc. And programmatic allows us to do all of that and do it on the behalf of brands and make the most out of their ad dollars.
Excellent. So that automated trading element, can I bring my own PMP deals if I have publisher relationships? Can I traffic those through Locala?
Absolutely.
And the attribution, the foot traffic piece there, that's such a hard problem for out of home to solve. Digital out of home is the measurement piece. Is that attribution suite you guys have, is that encompassing of all tactics? Does that even work for digital out of home?
It does work for digital out of home. All we need to do is look at the play logs, understand where that panel was, what time of day was it served, and then we collect the device IDs that are in viewing range of that panel and then measure whether or not they physically went into a store location and had at least 4 minutes of dwell time within that location. And outside of that view area, we'll collect devices that didn't see the panel and measure what that foot traffic was. So we still have a control group when it comes to digital at home. We could do the same thing with static out of home as well. And we do actively do that.
Love that. Is that something I can use as a publisher, or is that something exclusively available to advertisers using the DSP?
No, we work with many out-of-home companies as an attribution partner for them that they bring to their clients. Some clients request us as an attribution partner. And when it comes to mobile, desktop, and connected TV, we do a device graph, understand the devices in the different households, and they can measure that as well.
Can you give us like a 101? Maybe someone's just hearing device graph for the first time, or they've heard it but didn't necessarily have an opportunity to ask, what is that? What is a device graph? Can you just give us a little explainer?
Every mobile device has an anonymous ID, so there's no PII data connected to that. We see the GPS location through multiple different publishers, SDK level, down to very precise location. What's also important about that, Locala started in France about 13 years ago. Paris, France is where we were founded, and GDPR was born in France. So everything that we do, our entire platform, our global platform, is built around GDPR. So we are 100% privacy compliant. If we don't see through our transparency and consent framework that there is clear opt-in to share that location data, we throw that device out. So these are consumers who have opted in to allow their location to be tracked. We match those devices to different households. So understanding the household, match that to IP address. And so we could measure it to a TV that's connected, to a desktop, and then understand, okay, an ad was served on mobile, and we served an ad on connected TV. We served an ad on desktop. We will then track across those devices whether or not someone actually physically went to the store. And if we served to the same household, to the same devices, we'll do fractional attribution for that so that each of those channels will get credit for foot traffic attribution.
Would that be like equal credit, like a multi-touch attribution model, or are we kind of talking like MMM, like a media mix model?
Yeah, it's a media mix model. Depends on frequency.
Okay.
The ads were served on those devices. Depends on the channel. So there will be a mix. We may score one channel 20%, another channel 50%, another channel 30%. It really depends on what the activation was in that particular campaign.
Makes sense. And understanding that the DSP is using a series of inputs, rules, and given by the brand, given by the platform itself to select inventory, what are the factors that specifically digital out of home publishers should be considering to show up more often, to be more competitive in these environments? How do digital out of home publishers win more with omnichannel DSPs like Locala?
We bring to the table, we are working with different brands that have clear objectives, clear audiences, and then we are, as a DSP, buying the inventory in real time from these different publishers. So I think it brings more volume to each of those publishers, which in turn will bring more revenue for the publisher.
And if I'm a publisher, what decisions should I be making about my network, my inventory to stand out? Or are there things I can do to stand out? Or is it certain types of inventory are selected more frequently? I think every publisher is looking for a way to get a leg up. Curious if you have any thoughts.
Yeah, I definitely see where you're going with the question. The way I look at it, and especially in digital out of home, what would be very valuable panels to one brand, depending on their audience, may not be as valuable to another brand.
Mm.
So despite how much inventory, I think the more inventory, the better. We may purchase by time of day specific panels, but that's based on the audience that was defined to us. And then we'll look at the mobility patterns and then buy different panels throughout the time of day, knowing that a specific audience is there. But that's for one brand. If we are working with a brand that has very different audiences, some of the other panels that we may not have bid and served ads to would be relevant for a different campaign.
Why has CTV exploded so quickly?
A lot of people are moving away from cable subscriptions, watching regular network TV. With digital, everything is, you can consume it when you want to, at the moment you want to. So you see a lot of the subscription-based models, Paramount Plus, Disney Plus, all of those people are subscribing rather than just watching linear TV because they are going to watch their televisions when it is convenient to them. They don't have to sit to watch a show at 8 o'clock on Thursday night every week. And they could watch at their will. And that is where CTV is winning because that market is just growing in itself in terms of audiences and viewership.
I guess it's the same thing driving programmatic trends. We all want flexibility in our lives. We want to have our cake and we want to eat it too. So how can you give me
Correct.
both? And if you can
Absolutely.
win disproportionately. We'll talk a little bit CTV news in the news segment, some big shakeups there coming from the Trade Desk and from Viant. But I'm curious, as consumer behavior continues to change very rapidly, watching TV to my son is watching YouTube on the living room TV. Very different than watching TV, I'm sure, when we were growing up. How does Locala think about skating to the puck of consumer attention?
It goes back to who the audience is. Who is that brand trying to reach? And understanding the time of day, the environment, the location, and where those audiences are and where they are consuming media, that is how Locala operates to maximize ROI for the brand.
One of the questions that I forgot to ask on the attribution piece, specifically, again, for digital out of home, how are you receiving the play logs? And how close to real time is that reporting and optimization for digital out of home?
As soon as we turn the campaign on, we will start seeing different devices. It will typically take about 4 days, and it also depends on the attribution window for a particular brand. If they typical is standard 30-day attribution window, but we could do custom attribution windows. A brand may want 7 days or 14 days, but it will take time for those devices to actually convert. So about 4 days, and we just developed a dashboard where we will give it to clients and they can see in real time, particularly after 4 days, how that campaign is performing in terms of foot traffic.
Very cool. Any fun case studies that you can share with us?
We have a whole bunch. We just launched a case study with IWC Group, and it was all about driving traffic to their stores. Clients are very happy. The agency was very happy. And I don't have the details of the campaign offhand, but happy to share with you later.
Shoot me the details. We will make sure it's in the newsletter that goes out with this episode. It'll be easy to find in the show notes. And I think that probably what that case study is going to reveal is similar to what Viant found through their acquisition of Iris, in that the ability to target audiences is relative to improved outcomes. So I would love to hear maybe a little bit about Panel Optimizer. Locala has been in the news with some exciting new technology. Panel Optimizer is specific to digital out of home. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how it's fitting into the toolkit?
Yes, it's something very new. We launched it in October. So I mentioned earlier, we have a very robust planning tool. Within that planning tool, we could look at a number of different factors: cross-visitation, traffic share, footfall, and audience insights. Built within it also is our Insights AI, where we could look at all of those different trends and then ask our Insights AI, which is 100% our data and an LLM, to build a media plan for us. And the platform could actually build a media plan for us in seconds compared to what typical planners would do that takes days, weeks, even months to build. But within that, we also look at media receptivity. We understand by location, it's all survey based, which forms of media are most receptive. So if we were to look at, say, the New York DMA, we could pick out, okay, in this area, we should heavy up in display. This area, we should heavy up in online video. This area, we should heavy up in CTV. But then we added another layer to this where we added all of the digital out-of-home inventory that's available within the U.S. We build an audience, that's socio-demographic data, which is census data, which we're constantly updating, behavioral data, which is our data based on mobility patterns, purchase data, et cetera. And then once we build that audience, we could drop in all of the panels of a particular area, and we'll see by a heat map where that audience actually lives. We turn on our panel scoring, and then what the platform will do, it will score each of the panels by time of day that is most relevant to that particular audience. So this is what I mean, and digital out of home can be just like all other digital campaigns. We could optimize towards those audiences in the physical world at a real-time level by time of day. The example that I always love to give, if you look at Wall Street between 6:30 a.m. and 5 o'clock p.m., Monday through Friday, that audience is going to be extremely different than it is weekday nights and weekends. So if you are trying to reach, say, that Wall Street trader, you don't want to put a out-of-home ad around Wall Street on a Saturday at 3 o'clock. I mean, there will be some there because I know a lot of them are workaholics, but you're not going to hit all the people that you want to hit. So we'll optimize towards whatever that audience is, where they are at the time of day they are, so that the brand is getting the most exposure for dollars.
Ed, if folks want to learn more about the solutions that Locala is working on or connect with you, give them the Latin long. Where should they go?
Go to www.asklocala.com.
We will link to that. We'll link to your personal LinkedIn because I'm sure folks will want to connect with you as well. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back with a little bit of news. We'll talk Trade Desk, Ventura operating system, and Viant acquiring Iris CTV content data platform. We'll be right back with a little bit of news. Ed shared the case study that he referenced earlier. It's linked at the top of the show notes. I'm going to give you the TLDR and a breakdown of what that means. So IWC Premium Watch Brand, their agency, Essence MediaCom, working with Locala, implemented a strategy to target high-affinity shoppers within driving distance of a boutique. They targeted adults 35 to 54, high income, 150K plus, who aligned with the IWC's premium brand positioning. Then what they did was they retargeted that digital out-of-home exposed audience with online tactics like display. And what they found was they were able to drive 27% more foot traffic, 70% below the benchmark. What does that actually mean? If you looked at 1,000 visitors to the store, 1,000 visitors, if they didn't see an ad, that cost per visit was $145.60. So 1,000 visitors who didn't see an ad cost you $145,000 to put them there. If you show them an ad, that means keep your campaigns on. If we are always communicating with our customers, we are more likely to drive the outcomes that we want. So the ad exposed audience was a cost per visit of $43.68. On that same 1,000 visitors scaled set, you're going to see 1,270 visitors because of the 27% lift from the ad exposure, and then also the reduced cost, $90,000 cost savings because you drove them at a wildly efficient rate. So if you're looking to drive more visitors, highly qualified visitors, and to do it for a third of what you're spending, to not advertise to them, well, this might just be an idea for the 2025 playbook. Now, back to the show. Big news out last week from the Trade Desk. Trade Desk announcing their own CTV operating system called Ventura. This is Trade Desk making a play for having owned and operated supply, long billed as the anti-walled garden, the champion of the open internet. Trade Desk is now building their own owned and operated supply. They're offering better rev shares for OEMs and publishers and working on media frequency controls. Just a couple days before that news came out, Viant, another leading omnichannel DSP, acquired Iris, a CTV content data platform. They're approaching this from a more tactical position. Ed, we talked about the explosion of CTV. How do you, as a DSP, you see these acquisitions going on? What do you make of it?
Well, I think it's a natural progression. I mean, trade desk is becoming an absolute massive
Behemoth.
company. CTV is becoming one of the largest, not the largest channel out there for advertisers. So why not purchase your own and acquire your own inventory that you're going to deliver across your platform?
Does it make it harder for other DSPs to look at CTV inventory? Do you think it creates any sort of competing interest when buying CTV?
Absolutely. I think it definitely will. What I think it could do is possibly drive the prices, the CPMs up. But when bidding on the different inventories, the Trade Desk has their own inventory, and then they are going to more than likely just use it rather than putting it out into the programmatic world. So it could have that impact, but I mean, there's so much inventory across multiple different platforms, multiple different channels. Hopefully it doesn't change it too much.
That's a great point. There is so much inventory across all formats. It seems there's just so much inventory. How do you make good decisions about what the right inventory, like we talked obviously about the scoring and the ways that Locala looks at inventory, but there's a lot to choose from to score to present to your advertisers. I don't know the question that I'm trying to ask, but there's a question in there that I'd like you to answer. You know where I'm going with it. Take it.
I think I understand exactly what you're trying to get. How do we differentiate from the different types of inventory? So at our core, and this started when we were a mobile DSP, just a mobile DSP. Location was at its core with what we were trying to reach. So it mattered more to us, the location, rather than the content. Now, as an omni-channel platform, audiences are our core. Who is that person? What is that socio-demographic? What are their behaviors? So the inventory itself to us is not quite as important as reaching the right type of person for that brand. We'll have clients that request a certain mix of premium inventory compared to what would be considered non-premium inventory. But really for us, it's about reaching that right audience at the right time for the brand.
Thank you for extracting the question that hadn't yet formed in my head and also answering it. I told you he was warmed up. You were going to get the best of Ed, and we have. Ed, thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
If you found this episode to be helpful, please share it with someone who could benefit. As always, make sure to smash that subscribe button, specifically if you're watching on YouTube. 90% of the YouTube audience is not subscribed. So if you have watched to the end and you're doing so on YouTube, make sure to subscribe. We'll see y'all next time.